know. I'd love to know them lessons without doing what I had to do. And 4 doors up from the property I bought was a drug rehabilitation centre. And I jumped in, I said, look, you're just making an impression based on my accent.
So on today's episode, we have Harvey from Harvey Growth Properties. We're going to be talking about everything from mental health, personal development, and how he's known as the remote property investor. Harvey, welcome to the show. So Harvey, tell me, what do I need to know about yourself that's got you to where you are today?
What do you need to know? I guess a bit of a pig-headed determination is what you need to know. Like, just not giving up. You know, I have plenty of days like most people do where you don't feel like it, feel like I'm not capable of it, or feel overwhelmed. But I just keep moving forward. That's the main thing, I'd say, the ingredients behind it.
Where does the drive come from to not give up?
Yeah, good question. Really good question. I think from young, look, I grew up. I was born in Plaster Hospital, East London, but from the age of 6, moved to a little village, Averley, not far from here, where we're recording today, and grew up from there, majorly from 6. And I don't know my dad. My dad's Caribbean. My mum's white English, so never met my dad. Grew up in an East End white English home, but looked more black than I look white, so very confused as a kid. I don't know. My mum didn't have much money as a kid. Like when we was kids, she was a single mum, bringing up 3 kids. So I think it was a case of not having what other people had. I think that drive got sparked from that, from very young. I think one of my first, everybody talks about their early entrepreneurial ventures. It's usually selling sweets at school. My first one, I'm 45-year-old, and my first one was BMX. The film come out, BMX Bandits. And all my friends had Harrows, Diamondbacks. A lot of people might not know what they are if they're not my age, but I had these really cool BMXs, and my mum couldn't afford one, so I had to go out and trade them. And I just remember trading parts, and I found a guy at a boot market where he sold. He must have done a house clearance because he didn't know what they was. So he had all these good things, like these wheels that are called Skyways and Arrayas and these good parts, but he was selling them for like 5p, 20p. And I was like, each week I'd go back, buy one bit, get the money from that, sell it, go back, buy more and more kind of thing. So yeah, I think the hunger got born from not having anything, you know, but it's different. One of my sisters didn't have that. The other one's just a normal middle of the road. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was something in me internally.
Take me back to, obviously, when you just touched on that you didn't know who your dad was. Mm-hmm. Take me back to sort of East London when you was a child.
I can't remember it. It's too young. When I was young, we were just so young. But I remember, I'll take you back to childhood, but I can barely remember. Well, I don't remember really at all from London. I'm super proud that I was born there. But yeah, it's beyond the time of remembering. But as a child, yeah, difficult. We moved, like, it's probably more relevant when we did move out of London, because I moved to a village and there was no other black faces there apart from one. And he didn't actually go to our school. He went to a different school. So it was the 1980s, punk rock, and like racism was a very different thing back then than it is today. Still there, but to be fair, I heard this morning. Einstein said this, like, one of the most important questions that you can ask yourself is what world do you live in? What universe do you live in? Is it a good place or a bad place? And to be fair, I've just always been pretty kind of happy, I guess, and I just didn't pay attention to it. So I never really had no major racism issues, but going back to a young age, I always knew I was different. Like, I had afro hair, or kind of semi-afro hair, a black face, and everybody was white. So it was really weird. No dad around as well, you know, so I guess it was it had a difficult time. It had a massive impact on me and my mental health over the years as well, later years. But yeah, it was tough, but good at the same time. I enjoyed my childhood. There's nothing I kind of look back and think it was terrible, but I did feel being different. It was massive for me being different.
How did it impact your mental health?
Mental health, that impacted a number of things. So in how old was I? When about 21, I got sectioned under the Mental Health Act, like proper section. Like, I've had a few people like to say, do you know what? Yeah, I've been sectioned, but they've gone to the doctor and they've talked to them and they kind of speak to them. Like, I literally was locked up. I was a menace to society, and it's like, you got to be off the street now. So yeah, I was sectioned at 21, and again at 23, I was sectioned, or 24, I was sectioned again. And then probably in 2014, so let's look back over it. So the first time I got sectioned, we marked it out of 100. How bad was I? Like, I used to smoke weed heavily, and they called it drug-induced psychosis. the weed had a contribution towards it. It wasn't the main thing. There's loads of things: smoking too much weed, my dad issues, my own things, taking on too much with just entrepreneurial things. Just there was a big combination of things that contributed towards that. It wasn't just one thing, but the main underlining thing was I wasn't sleeping at the time. So I went into a sleep deprivation. I tried giving up weed. I used to self-medicate and use weed massively for a sleeper, and I give it up one day. Got on with business. And yeah, after about 3 or 4 weeks of no sleep, I was then a bit do-laddie or la kind of thing. So yeah, first time, if we measured how bad it was 110 out of 10. Second time was about probably 65, 70. I'd understood it a little bit more and understood myself, how it worked, and understood the system as well, because literally it is like you come in here, you take these really heavy drugs, and you're not leaving until you're to your drag, like you're not so hyper, basically. The third time it nearly raised its head was in 2014, and this time it's probably a 30 out of 100. So it kind of raised its head, but I think it's sectioned. I understood what to do with it, but at that point then I still understood myself enough to say, look, do I want it to keep on repeating itself, or do I humble myself and just learn myself more? So since then I just geeked out on like neuroscience and my brain, my well-being, just my health, different. How much sleep do I need? What sort of diets do I eat that affects the way I think and feel? How much, like, what sort of relationships? How do I need to be in myself? So, been a geek of that since then. But yeah, the impact was a small contribution. Is being sectioned under the Mental Health Act.
I mean, that's I can certainly relate to that, because I don't know if you've watched the podcast. I've been sectioned as well. Obviously for my own health, but for other people's as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, what did you take from that? Obviously, you've got the tools now that you can implement. But what happened after you were sectioned?
So look, I was, as I said, it was diagnosed as drug-induced psychosis. Definitely wasn't drug-induced psychosis. The drugs contribute to it, but I hadn't smoked a joint in about a month, so giving up it was more the problem than the lack of sleep from giving up too quick. But after it happened, they just put me on so heavy drugs, really, really, really heavy drugs. So it put me into a massive depression. So I couldn't even leave. I went back to my mum's house, stayed in the box room. I couldn't even leave the bedroom. Like, I couldn't even speak to my friend on the phone. My anxiety was so high, I couldn't even speak to friends on the phone. The first time that happened took about 18 months before I could even start introducing myself back into society. Second time it happened took about a year to get over it. Third time it happened, I knew the routine and I knew myself a lot better, and I'd already started personal development stuff anyway. I just thought, right, I need to just go a bit more deeper on the personal development stuff and remove my ego to think I'm powerful enough to just power through it now, kind of thing. But lessons I learned from it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Just in myself, in my own journey, in myself, how to manage myself, how to manage my well-being, the signs of that. So yeah, as bad as it was at the time, when I look back at it, is it a path that I would get rid of? I don't know. I'd love to know them lessons without doing what I had to do for it, but yeah, it's been really powerful.
So I would imagine that you've had some kind of therapy.
I didn't know. Like,
is that not something they offered?
Yeah, they did offer it, but I was resistant to it, to be fair. At the time, I was just like, no, I don't want it. I was really resistant to the whole thing. Like, when they sectioned me, I was like, I'm not taking no drugs. I don't like, if I put drugs in my system, I just got given a espresso, anything too much. I've got high energy anyway. So you put anything in my system, I can feel it, like, I don't know, I can feel the difference in my, like, I don't know, in my chemistry inside me, if you'd like to say it. So I was really resistant to the whole thing. When they sectioned me, I was really like against it. Like, I'm not taking these drugs, like literally throwing them. I'm saying, fuck off, I'm not taking them. But they got the rubber cosh in there, and I see them like put a few people in them arm locks and like get them down and inject them. So I'm like, okay, go on then. Like, you're not. I kind of puffed my chest up to try and get them to stop me from taking them, and they was not listening. So it's like, fair enough, just give them.
I've had that jab, mate. It ain't nice.
Yeah, I actually pulled away just the very last minute of when they're coming with it. You can see they're coming with it. It's out ready. Yeah. You're gonna take it now. Oh, go on then. but yeah, I lost my train of thought where we was with that original question. But
therapy.
Therapy. Yeah, no therapy from it. Self therapy. I really dug deep. So in 2014, when I left school, I was dyslexic as well. So never read a book when I left. Where was at school? And just before this happened, so in 2010, I said, look, I really want to learn to read. I feel there's a power in reading. I want to learn to read. It took me 5 years to get to some sort of level of reading. But I read my first book in 2009, cover to cover. And that was part of it. In 2014, I was just starting to get momentum with reading, and then I overconsumed too much knowledge. Like, it blew my mind. I was up all night thinking, oh, I could do this, I could do that, do this, do that. And again, sleep deprivation and back to where we was. But yeah, I've got a life coach once, didn't really work well with it. They put me into therapists, but I was resistant, so I didn't really go along with what they said. So I just learned the hard way. I went into a big, deep depression for a while. Then just slowly integrated myself back into society. But then I've just geeked out on books, like really, really geeked out on books. And the science behind it. So the neuroscience behind the different things. So meditation, mindfulness, breath work, just different like biohacking stuff, different diets, different foods. And then tested, like been a guinea pig to myself. Like, I'm like, okay, if I eat this, I will get to sleep like this. If I exercise this much, I'll have this. And I know where my levels are at. And do I get it perfect all the time? Absolutely not. It drifts. Life gets in the way. Like we said, I've got a young kid. Sometimes that drifts, this drifts. But what I've learned is if you think of it like a wheel, there's foundations behind this. I'm like, okay, this is my sleep. This is my diet. This is my exercise. This is my relationships. This is my business. All these things like a wheel. And none of them will be perfectly at the edge of the wheel. But every now and again, if one shrinks in, I know my wheels, as it's going around, it's clinking. So it's just awareness. Like in my values, like number one of my values is time. Number two is awareness. So with that, it's like I need to be aware when I'm off my equilibrium, because I can't keep them all perfect all the time. There's no way. Like when I'm getting perfect on my business, my sleep might be out a little bit. If I'm perfect on my sleep, my gym might be out because I'm slept in too long. There's never all of them are perfect at the same time. But it's the awareness to know that's that. And what I need to do is I can't repair that straight away today, but I need to think, what is my game plan towards getting my sleep back? Or what's my game plan towards getting my routine from a gym or my diet back to where I want it to be? So it never goes terrible, but it's never always perfect kind of thing. So yeah, but no therapy, even though I probably should have had it, but I didn't.
And obviously you're an ambitious person. Mm-hmm. How do you manage the expectations of the ambition?
Really good question. So manage your expectations of your ambition. Do you know what? One of my big markers in myself is sleep. So I'm not going to trade off money for my well-being. So I want money. Money is really enjoyable. I think money, once you get to a certain level of money, it's more of a barometer of the enjoyment of what you're doing than it is like the actual money anymore. But I do enjoy it, and I don't care what anybody says. Money's super important in life. Like what was it? I heard Deepak Chopra say this. He said, money doesn't guarantee happiness, but poverty guarantees misery. So everybody's got a moral obligation to themselves to make sure they've got enough money to live comfortably. And there's three different levels of security within money. So people say, I want to be financially free. There's three different levels. There's financial security, financial independence, and financial freedom. Security, every single person in the world today should be at bare minimum security. That's when you save at least 10% of what you earn, put it into some sort of asset that compounds, and then compound that back in. Even whether it's just a tracker fund within the stock market, or it's a good pension. Most of them are not good, but it's a good pension. You should at least put in 10% of what you earn, so then you live financially secure and you can retire without worrying. Financial independence is the next level up. That's the sort of barrier I'm in. I've got enough properties to be independent where I could go travelling for a year if I wanted to, but I'm still not at financial freedom's like you can buy a yacht, you can buy a jet. That's completely financial freedom. What people don't understand is each level up as well, it comes with a different level of responsibility. You cannot get to financial freedom or independence without taking on more responsibility. Every level you go up, you need staff, you need people. And as soon as you get staff and people involved with something, it comes with more pressure and response. Like off a camera, we're saying this. The buck still stops with you. The fault still stops with you. If somebody doesn't tick a box off within their KPIs or something happens, the responsibility all lands on your head and your shoulders. So how I manage my ambition is, if I'm not sleeping at night for too many nights because my mind is just too busy, or my boy is talking to me and I'm like, what'd you say? They're the biomarkers in me to go, do you know what? I'm taking on too much. So I kind of realise I want to be ambitious. I want to grow. I think fulfillment is in growth. You've got to always be pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, but you've got to get that pace right with not taking too many trade-offs for that.
I think it's very important for people to realise as well, everyone's financial security, independence and freedom will be different. Mm-hmm. So you just mentioned a yacht there for yourself. Mm-hmm. That's your level of financial freedom. Mm-hmm. That may not be for the next person, or the person listening to this. Mm-hmm. You may only need 10 grand a month. That seems to be the magic number now.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
I need 10 grand a month to be financially free. you don't actually. You've got a money management issue if you can't live off around about, I would say, 5.
Yeah.
Well, probably not now with inflation, but especially with the base rate at the minute. However, if you're, like you said, if you're not investing that money and compounding it over time, you probably could live off about £5 grand a month.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But again, no, but that's going back to what I was saying there, that's independence. So it's fine. Your independence level is finding what you can live off. And if you can get enough assets to be able to support that, what I meant by freedom is if you're financially free, means you can just buy anything. So not live, like that's not covering your cost of living. That's financial independence where it covers your cost of living. Financial security is where it doesn't, your assets don't cover your cost of living, but it just secures you for the future. Yeah. Financial independence is covering £5 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, whatever that is for you. Yeah. Financial freedom is like buying yachts and and I don't want to be financially free. I don't want that full freedom because I don't want the responsibility that comes with it.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
why would you not want it?
Because again, it's just levels of. There's no way you can get to a level of where you can buy yachts and buy planes and stuff like that without taking on a big team, a big responsibility. Yeah. And I don't want that level of responsibility. I want to grow. I want to be wealthy. I want to do well. But getting to that level really comes with another level up of responsibility with it. So I'm ambitious, but I know what the trade-offs are. And often the trade-offs at that level is time with your family, time with your kids, and your well-being and your mind space.
How are you managing the trade-offs at the moment?
Pretty well. And as I said, not perfect, by no means perfect, but I take my boy to school every morning, spend time, like get up in the morning, spend time with my family. First hour of the day, like no phone, no, apart from listening to a podcast or listening to something inspirational, spend time with the family in the morning, jog my boy to school in the morning. He rides his bike, I jog him to school. My little girl goes to nursery a couple of days a week, so I even run her next to us in the pram. So I get good family time there. I work in between there. Then when they come home from school, I'll have a bit of time with them again. Then I'm working quite later than I'd like to, I guess. But not like to, because I enjoy what I do. But later then, I should be switching off because my sleep's been suffering a little bit as I'm getting used to having a younger kid in the house and 2 kids in the house instead of 1. So, but yeah, pretty well. The balance is not perfect, like going back to that wheel, but it's not completely chinking as it's going round kind of thing.
And just want to touch back on something you mentioned with your mental health and when you've sort of transitioned out of that and you're starting to develop yourself and sort of come back out of this phase. And something I can certainly relate to is the relationships you were building with probably new friends and your family members. What was your relationship like with your family at that point? Because you have to sort of say, this is a new me. You have to rebuild yourself. Mm-hmm. Did it impact your relationships?
One relationship with my sister is impacted. It's not the same as it ever was, like shame, saddens me. But what can you kind of do? I will continue to kind of reach out with that. A complete shift. I was funny enough on the way here. I was talking to a really old friend from young and my old past and things like that. And it is. I'm like a completely different person. Like when I look at myself from sort of 18 to 27. Like as I said, I'm 45 now, but even from 27 again to 37, I'm like, wow, it's completely shift in who I am. I've evolved as a person, as in nearly unrecognisable from what I was. And it is hard for certain people, especially friends and family, probably more so friends than it was family. Obviously, I guess family usually got no choice, but even definitely for certain friends, like they couldn't get the point that I'm evolving. Like lots of them are still in the pub at the weekend, getting on the gear or whatever they do. And like every now and again, I go back to where I grew up. As I said, Avely, there might be a funeral or a party, and I'll pop there. And it's nice to catch up with them. But I'm like, wow, like it seems like they're stuck in a time shift. And I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but I do get the impression of, I don't know, like you kind of could have brought us along, or it's like I'd love to bring you along, like, but here's the formula. You've got to do it. I can't do it for you, kind of thing, So yeah, there was a little bit of impact with that. I don't see some of my old school friends as much as I used to, or I stay in touch with them as much as I used to, which is a shame. But yeah, so I guess it's evolution, isn't it?
No, I can relate to that. And even some of my family members, it's been very hard because I've had to say, that I can't. It's not that I can't be in contact with you. I've had to sort of disconnect in a way in order to grow. Mm-hmm. And obviously I love my family to bits. Mm-hmm. I've all my friends to bits, but I've got to disconnect from them in order for me to grow as a human. Mm-hmm. And there'll be some people listening. I know there's some of my friends that have gone through a similar situation as myself and you. that have had to go, I've got to take my own journey and learn my own way. You can only offer advice.
Absolutely.
They've got to put the graft in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they've got to do that. So you then invested in property.
Yeah, so started investing in property 2009. So I started investing in the last crash. Well, the '08 crash happened. 2009, I bought my first deal, which was a piece of land. Way above my skill level, way above what I should have been doing at the time. But like, I was just like, I've always been pretty ambitious and always, I've been one of those start now, think about it afterwards type person. As I'm getting older, that is wearing off a little bit. I'm a little bit more, I think just been burnt so many times, I'm wiser to it now. But yeah, I bought a piece of land, thought I was going to build 2 3-bedroom properties on this piece of land. And yeah, far from happened. Ended up losing me money. And yeah, but lucky enough, the loss of the money come about 5 years after owning it. So it wasn't straight away, so it didn't put me off. So I bought a piece of land. Then I bought my second property in Southend, funny enough. So bought that property, as we were saying off camera. I invest remotely. So my main thing is a remote property investor. And with tech today, everybody should be a remote property investor. Whether you invest locally or remotely, you should use tech to leverage what you're doing, because it will just leverage your time. People come to me and say, should I invest far away? Should I invest close? What should I do if it's far away? I said, no matter if it's far or close, if I'm going to get a build, I'm using the same methodologies. If I'm going to manage a build, I'm using the same methodologies, because if you use tech, you're going to massively leverage your time. So whether it's 20 minutes away, an hour away or not, but I bought the property in Southend. It's always a story I tell people. It ended up being in the middle of a red light district, and 4 doors up from the property I bought was a drug rehabilitation centre. And this red light district, you'll know it, but this red light district wasn't like Amsterdam and a cool place, something like that. It was like heroin addicts, crack addicts, walking the street at night to get their fix. Then in the morning, they was queuing up at this drug rehabilitation centre to get their medicines in the morning. Luckily, I moved my friend in now, and I think he quite secretly liked these ladies at night because he stayed there for about 7 years. But yeah, he'd probably kill me for saying that. But I moved him in now. Then the second, because it's a 3-bedroom place, second time I rented it out, I rented it like just for 3-bedroom benefits rates, because I knew the 3 bedrooms way above that at the time in Southend. So I was like, look, I'm happy to just accept 3-bedroom benefits because I want to attract a long-term tenant in there that can't afford. They can't get council home. They can't afford a 3-bed because the top up's too much money. And the second tenant, it's funny, she phoned me up about a week after moving in, and she was like, "Oh my God, there's prostitutes walking past my flat." And I was like, "I did ask you when you moved in, do you know the area well?" She only lived literally 10 minutes away, but that was the penny that dropped for me. Because I remember in 2014, when going back on myself, when I said my head started going again, part of that was I got a coffee shop. I got into property, and I bought my first deal in 2009. And by 2012, I'd bought 5 property deals, no education. I wasn't on the internet at the time. I just got introduced to the internet, should I say. But it wasn't what it is today. There wasn't the YouTube and all these things out there. So I bought my first 5 properties. I bought 2 in the south, and I bought 3 in the north. The first couple in the south, I left pretty much all my money and couldn't recycle my money. The first 3 I bought in the north, I recycled all my money. I met a guy from the north. He'd moved down to the next town, met a girl I knew, and he'd done over 100 deals in the area. He's got several businesses in the area, and just a chance meeting, but really nice guy, best friends with him to this day. But he helped me buy the first few properties, and I was buying properties, picking properties up like for 40k, 45k, and I was like, wow, like ridiculous. Like I needed a fraction of the deposit that I did going up buying them local. So I bought 3 of those, and then I got a coffee shop on the idea of I want to buy more of these properties. So I'm going to get the coffee shop to give me more revenue to buy more properties. But it was just, what a bad move. I hired my nephew to go in there. I hired a lady to go in there. It's my friend's girlfriend to go in there. And day 1, she gave up. Day 2, I'm in there with my iPhone Googling, how do you make a cappuccino? Because I was like, crap. But it done the total opposite. I was planning to earn some money from it to buy more properties, and it stopped me buying properties for nearly 2 years because it just sucked my money out of me and my time and my effort, my focus and my stress. Then 2 years later, I went to multiple streams of property income. Thought, right, I'm getting back on the property ladder. Got my first coach, which was Mark Homer and the HMO Daddy, and they was all saying only invest within an hour where you live. And I was like, okay, look, I'm humble. Like, I'm a humble learner. If you know more than me, I'm all ears. I'm not egotistical. But you got to show me why I'm wrong. And if you show me why I'm wrong, happy days. Whether you know more than me or not, I'm happy to listen. Well, anyway, every speaker there was saying only invest within an hour. I'm like, I've got this wrong. They talk about HMOs, other people's money, JVs, and I was like, wow, it blew my mind. So I've got a JV partner, I've got a HMO locally in South Ockenden, and it was just an headache. It was a headache managing it. It was a headache with the council. They was trying to battle us to turn it from a 6-bedroom into a 4-bedroom. It was a headache managing the refurb, like all en suites. It was just bigger and more than I'd ever done before. And a lot more pressure as well, because I'd raised a JV partner and a lot of money at the time, and probably didn't have enough experience to do that, but I kind of muddled on and done it. And then at that time, as I said, that lady moved into that flat in Southend and went, oh my God, there's prostitutes walking past my house. And I was like, I don't know, like I can't invest in Averley because it's a little village. I can't invest in Stratford at the time. It's just too expensive. Like the returns wasn't there. I didn't have the capital for it. I'm like, these are the two areas that I'll know. Like Southend was within an hour. All these people were saying. I didn't know that any better than I knew Stockton-on-Tees. Like I bought it right in the middle of a red light district. In fact, I knew Stockton-on-Tees better because I met that guy. He guided me. There's plenty of them areas in Stockton-on-Tees, but he guided me away from them. So I was like, do you know what? The money and capital it took to do this HMO in the South, I could have bought 5 single lets out of that money, and I would have had the same sort of revenue out of them 5 single lets without the headache of managing HMOs. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going back to it. Everybody says don't do it, and I'm going to take all their advice. I'm going to take their advice on investing, managing businesses, but I'm going to figure out a way to do this remotely and use tech. Surely you can do it. I went off and done a course in Bali with a guy called Roger Hamilton, just a business course, not property, and I just learnt business. And I was like, okay, I'm going to master this and get on with it. And yeah, years later, I've done over 100 deals remotely, built a lettings business up there, sourcing business, and yeah, glad I ignored everybody saying when you've got to invest locally kind of thing.
So is that how you're getting the deals then? Is that how you're managing remotely? Is that you've got your own business up north?
I built into that, yeah. So initially I leveraged that guy. So he had an area, he had a team, and this when I teach people how to do this. So I say to them, look, if you go to a new area, the biggest question I'll get is, how do you manage it? How do you find builders? How do you do this? I say, how do you find a builder locally? You either walk down. You're not going to walk down the street and look for a van on the side of the road on a building site. You go and check a trader, rated people. Again, even if it's local, go and speak to a letting agent. And say, look, I'm going to bring you the business. Do you mind snagging this every week for us? Put together a good program of works, whether it's local or remote as well, and say to them, look, I'm going to pay you on these milestones, and have a video call with them once a week. I had to refurb the property. I still own that property in Southend, funny enough, but I had to refurb that a little while ago, and I didn't drive there each time. It's a 40-minute drive. So it's like, it's 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back. Even I've got properties within 20 minutes from me. I'm not driving there every day. Like, let's have a video call to make sure you're on site and on the stage where you're at, and I'll pay you in increments and in stages. But it's more than achievable today, because the main thing behind any business is your network. Everybody's online today. You can do business online with everybody, from letting agents to builders. And again, going back into, if you've got an online profile, that's your online CV. So loads of people want to do business with me quicker than they want to do business with somebody just unknown. Because I strategically will, like if I find a builder, I'll strategically go online, network with him, and try and get him onto my, like the curiosity is, if I liked your page 10 times and engaged on your page 10 times, you'd naturally kick on my face and go, who's this person? Then if you can see in history that I've done my research in the area, done my due diligence, done a few deals before, whether you've done deals or not, but you can just see I've done my due diligence and I'm not just a chancer, that's going to make me much more attractable. Is that even a word? But it's going to make me much more attractive to somebody to want to work with, you know? So yeah, I've got my own team up there now, and we've got a lettings team, sourcing business, but it wasn't always that way. I leveraged that guy first of all. That was a chance meeting back in the time when I met him, but today you can just go online and just meet people just so quickly and easily.
Is there a danger, like, because of the price of the properties up there, and then the amount that you're spending on, say, refurbs, that you could potentially run into monetary issues, like monetary problems with the amount that you're leaving in deals?
No, totally the opposite. So what I found, not so much recently because of in a shift. So before, it's fantastic. So what I say to people is fundamentals. You like capital growth or false depreciation. They're the two main things that's going to give you the capital within a deal. Often you don't get both of them in abundance, if that makes sense. So you're either going to get a lot of capital growth and not so much false depreciation, because the main reason you get false depreciation is from motivated sellers. If there's tons of capital growth in an area, it means the area is really buoyant. There's low stock in the area, things sell really quickly. So why would somebody sell it to you or me for a discount if they can put it on the open market and sell it within a week? There's no reason for them to do that. So they don't sell it to us. So if you're getting lots of capital growth, you don't get many motivated sellers. If you're getting hardly any capital growth, you're getting lots of motivated sellers. So For me, I actually slightly preferred it before the capital growth was in my area, because you could just it was in my hands. I'd say, look, this is the end value. I know how to cost a refurb, so I knew pretty much, give or take, a surveyor coming out and being a bit of a dick, but give or take that. So sorry for swearing, but give or take that, I knew where I was at. Well, if you buy a property, like I've got this question all the time: what about the capital appreciation, especially like maybe 7 or 8 years ago when I was investing up there? What about the capital appreciation? I'd be like, okay, go and buy a place in Basildon for 300k. I'm going to need 100k to buy that deal. Let's say that property, very rarely I'm going to get much of a discount on that. So let's say I put that 100k into the deal for the deposits, blah, blah, blah. I'm maybe going to get £1,500 a month rent on that. So let's say it has 10% growth over the next 3 years. So I've got 90 grand growth. Let's say I take that same 100k, I can go and buy 4 properties up the northeast. I know I can force them values up by about 20k to 25k per property. So and I can do that in 6 months. So I've got the same 100k worth of equity you're waited for, and hoped with your fingers crossed that the market's going to carry on growing at 10% within 6 months. And I can also lend against that capital, because also the hard thing you've got in the south is the multiplier of your rents. So they cap that. So if you've got, even if you've got equity in there, if there's not enough of a multiplier of your rent, they're going to say we're not going to lend against it. So yeah, I've just done the buy, refurbish, refinance. So every now and again, you'd stumble across a deal where you'd leave more in it than you wanted to. But the great thing is, you've got 25 grand in a deal. It's much more recoverable than you've got. Like, I've just done a deal and I've got 150 grand that's left in the deal. It's not where I wanted it to go. And I'm like, okay, that's pinched me a little bit. My reserves are a bit low and I need to get working again. When I do a deal like that, and if it don't go to plan, I've got 25 grand in the deal. It's giving me a 13% return on 25 grand. So the worst case scenario is I've got 13% with 25 grand stuck in the deal. Yeah. Good case scenario is I might be able to recycle my cash and get myself a 40, 50, 70% return on capital, you know? So
it's, yeah, when you look at it like that, it's a lot better than even, well, like you say, 150
Absolutely. It's recoverable.
And obviously you say you're teaching other people to do it as well. Mm-hmm. And tell me more about the education platform you've got.
Yeah, so really exciting, really, really enjoy it. So I've got a main signature program, which is a 6-week coaching program. We've put that into an e-learning. I was very resistant on putting it into an e-learning because people just don't finish e-learning platforms. They just don't do them. They buy them, and myself included. I bought loads of e-learnings, got halfway through it, got sidetracked, and then I'm off to something different. And I've prided myself on this. So I've done it over 6 weeks instead of it could be a 3-day course, a weekend retreat. I'd earn more money from that. It'd be less intensive on me, but I'd do it over 6 weeks. I'll take people through that journey. I've invested tens of thousands of pounds in my personal development and in my education. And what I found is if you do a weekend course, it's great. You get excited. You're all fired up. A month later, it's worn off and you're back to day-to-day life sucked in. If you get a mentorship or a mastermind where you're going back each time and you're kept accountable, it's much more powerful. But also, if you get a program that drip feeds you it bit by bit with action steps and a pathway, then that again is much more powerful. So yeah, I've got a 6-week course which takes you from set up all the way through to getting your tenants in. And it takes you, I call it your property delta matrix. So I'll say, let's find what's right for you. My biggest bugbear in the education space is, look, I've done it, so can you. That's BS. Look, Usain Bolt run under 10 seconds. I don't care what mindset I had, what positive attitude I had, what coach I had. I'm never going to run under 10 seconds because I've not got that innate ability. And business, like being a fast runner, is a bit of nature and a bit of nurture. So circling back on your question earlier on, I had that in me naturally. Like, we all grew up in the same circumstances between me and my sisters. I just this hunger in me naturally. You can't train that into people. Similar again, you couldn't train me to be a basketball player because I'm just naturally short, you know. So you've got to have that nature and nurture in a bit of a blend. So what I pride myself on my training is, let's find where your pace is. Let's don't take my best case scenario and say he done it, so can you, because BS. Let's find where you are and let's get your comfort zone and let's stretch that a little bit. And let's find what the best strategy is that's suited to you. Because I know it sounds sexy going to do SAs or HMOs or commercial conversion, but the reality is there's more pressure, more money involved, there's more risk, more of a chance of you going bankrupt if you've not got the skill to navigate that, you know, or the resources or the mindset. So I say to people, ask yourself these questions. Money, knowledge, network. So I call it a delta matrix. So I say, look, money, knowledge, network, like that. And then in the middle, time. How much have you got of each of these? Because at the moment, I've not got much time. So although I believe, even though I lost money on my first development, I believe I could deliver a development today. I've got the skill and everything to do it, but I've not probably got the time to do it. And this is the big one. Just because you've got the skill to do something doesn't mean you can squeeze them extra hours into a day. So say to people, score yourself from 1 to 10. Score yourself. Like, where are you at on all these? And at the bottom of that, now say courage, confidence, conviction. How much pressure can you handle? How much stress can you handle? Because the bigger the thing you'll do, the more moving parts. Like, I know essays sound sexy, but you said, like, it's a business. It's full on. You're dealing with cleaners, guests, complaints, and it's a lot more. And if you can't handle that pressure, then that's going to ultimately stop you, because the biggest thing that holds people back is fear. And the bigger the fear is to you, the bigger it's going to hold you back, and that internal dialogue is going to give you good justified reasons not to do it. So pressure and courage, confidence, conviction is a learned thing. Some people naturally got it, like in abundance, and some people have to build it up. So if you start smaller and build, this is why boxers start off with journeymen. Anthony Joshua didn't go straight in for a heavyweight title fight. He went in with journeymen, smaller arenas, built up, bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, like, and this is why footballers as well, when they've got a young promising player come through, they put them out on loan to a Ryman's League. They then put him to a Division 1 and then build them into the bigger arenas. You always get an exception of a rule, like a Mike Tyson, who's 19-year-old heavyweight champion of the world, or Wayne Rooney at 16 coming on, scoring on his debut. But they're exceptions. And through my training, as I say, we'll find, if you are the exception, great, we'll push you on to do what you're doing. If you're not the exception, you're down here, we'll push you on to where you are in your journey, kind of thing, and find the right path for you.
I was just about to ask, what have you been received by other education providers within the property industry?
I think pretty well. A lot of pushbacks, because I say, look, don't always go for HMO straight away. Like, if it is right for you, yeah, do it. If you score the right score on these little tests that we do, and you can do yeah, fantastic. So I get a bit of pushback. People go, oh no, you can do it. He done it, but like, it means everybody can do it. I'm not saying not everybody can as well, by the way. I want to make that super clear. So I've had a few like friendly pushbacks of like especially from the HMO people or the people doing essays. I'm like, of course, there is the odd person or commercial conversion. Again, I've had a little bit pushback on you have to do it locally. That old like myth of you got to invest locally. Yeah, no, you shouldn't do it far away. But in general, pretty good. And all the pushback from other people have been not hateful ones. It's just a little bit of a like
friendly competition.
Yeah, friendly disagreement kind of thing. Yeah.
And I would imagine all this come from social media.
Yeah.
So what's your views on social media now? Because I would imagine it's changed your life somewhat.
Oh, absolutely. This is the foundation behind what you're doing. The world has changed. Attention is the new currency. Like if you look at businesses, the biggest businesses back in the day was like you still like these industries. Today, the biggest businesses are your Facebooks, your Googles. That is attention and like lists and stuff like that. It's the new currency. It's so important to any business you're going to do. This is the single-handed most powerful thing you can do in any business to accelerate your business, without question.
So you're moving more into creating more content as well, aren't you?
Absolutely. I really took a conscious decision on it. And the funny thing is, the biggest thing that holds people back, again, is fear. I remember when I went to Bali and done that training with Roger Hamilton, on day 3, I said, right, tomorrow you're doing video. And I was like, no way, I don't want to do video. When I was young as well, being around weed, I was in and out of trouble. I got caught with some weed once, and I was in and out of trouble a little bit. Nothing major. I could have been maybe a pimp or a heroin dealer with that flat in Southend, but either way, I got in trouble with weed when I was younger, and I was like, last thing I want is my face on social media. Just be private, just do what you're doing. I had that same dialogue in my head. I went to Bali and they went, you're doing content. I was like, no way, I don't want to do it. I remember doing 40 takes and recording my first video, and it was crap, absolutely crap. Come out as well, because you feel crap, because it's crap. You're like, rather than admit that you're crap at something and you're scared to do something, it's often easier to say to yourself, I don't need that. It's not for me. It's not the right timing. But then one day I just went, you know what? It's important. I need to take this serious and build on this. It took me a while, build up my confidence and my momentum with it. But yeah, it's really, really massive. With content, digital assets, that is my new evolution into it. I'm always going to buy properties, but I feel there's an evolution into understanding online assets and online digital spaces. Your content, I've done some training with a guy called Daniel Priestley as well, and he wrote a book called 24 Assets, and he said that digital assets are absolutely ginormous. So your YouTube channel, your Facebook page, your Instagram, all these things are assets now, because they're constantly building relationships for you around the clock. And people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Google done a study. Well, the original book in the 1980s, 1990s called Influence said 7 points of contact is what it takes for people to like build enough trust to do business with you, buy from you, do whatever, build that trust point on average. Google done a study in about 7-8 years ago, and they called it ZERMOT, zero moment of truth, saying this is the point when people build enough trust. I said it's gone up to 12 points now because of social media and the distrust that creates as well. And I think it's probably gone up since that study as well, since then. So if you build out online profiles, like the foundation of it, again, using the Delta Matrix, the foundation is the awareness. So you build out a presence online and you build them into like funnels and online presences. That is absolutely key for growing any business, any space.
And I think what you've done so far is absolutely amazing in such a short space of time as well. You can see the personal growth, the personal development. Something I found fascinating when I was doing my research on you is I didn't know about your dad. Mm-hmm. And the amount of time that you want to spend and you do spend with your son. Mm-hmm. So take me to your happy place.
Happy place? It's different on different days, you know, like, but definitely, yeah, look, I do like a lot of mindful stuff and mindfulness. But yeah, like there's not a joy like I always knew I didn't enjoy being a dad. Like I've always been, I've got 9 godchildren from friends and family. And I've always spent time with them as well, took them skiing and things like that. Like, really enjoyed kids. But I always said to myself, I'm only going to have kids with somebody I think that we can make it as a relationship. Because the reality is, the odds against you if you go into a relationship. Like, you look at the level of divorce, split ups and everything. And again, probably not having my dad in my life, I was like, I don't want to be a weekend dad. So I remember when I met my wife, I said, look, she said, like, she was from Holland and she moved over from Holland. She's like, would you I don't want to get married straight away, but she went, look, if I'm going to move from Holland, I need to know your goals are the same as mine, kind of thing. Marriage, it works out between us, marriage and family, kids. And I'm like, it's not massive on my agenda, because she's 10 years younger than me. So I said, it's not massive on my agenda. I met her 13 years ago. So I said, it's not massive on my agenda to have families and kids. But if I meet the right girl, yes. But it's got to be the right girl. And in my head, my philosophy behind that is, if we're together after 5 years and we still get on, then we'll look at it. I'm not going to have marriage and kids within the first year when it's honeymoon stage, because you just get blinded from that, you know? Like, let's see how we feel after living together after 5 years. We had our first kid after 8 years of being together, and we got married after about 9 years of being together. But yeah, I knew I'd enjoy having kids, but I remember my friend as well always going to me before he had a kid and going, you don't realise. I said, I think I do realise. I have my nephews around me all the time, take them. I used to let them stay with me. You don't understand. I said, I think I do understand. And wow, he was right. I didn't understand. I'm like, wow, I didn't understand. And again, that's definitely, again, going back to your question earlier on as well about like super financial freedom, without question that I've not met anybody that's at super financial freedom level that's not trade off their relationships and time in the family. The amount of people that come to me that's much more financially like successful than, because part of my training is all the mindset, social media. It's not just property. It's like, let's get you on track to where you are. And the amount of people come to me that I go, wow, like, you're way more financially successful than me. They come to me for that, say, look, I don't know my kids. I've got grown-up kids. I'm 45. They're around my age. Got grown-up kids, great business, but I don't know them. And the regret that I've got from that and the balance that I've not got in my life from that is absolutely ginormous. But if we put a finger on it, yeah, my kids at the moment is definitely gives me that joy. The days when I'm a bit like under pressure and I'm taking my boy out, learning him to ride his bike, and my daughter walks over to me with a big smile on her face, like, yeah, that's definitely it. But I get happiness from loads of different angles.
Did you feel there was an added pressure not to end up like your dad, for example, be the weekend dad as you mentioned?
No, it didn't. As it happens, I went into I'm anal with loads of things. When I was a kid, I read about this and understood it. When I got into relationships, I geeked out on it. I went from being dyslexic, not learning. I left school. I've not got one GCSE or one exam or anything like that. I left school early. So I went from not wanting to learn to just being obsessed with learning. I started listening to about 70 to 80 books a year and reading about 20 or 30 a year, even though I was dyslexic and I'm a slow reader. I'm still dyslexic, but I just forced myself to learn. And so I just had a unreal appetite just to learn and consume lots of content. But I geek out on everything I do now. So with relationship, I geeked out on it. What do I need to do? Where do I need to be? Where do I need to be self-aware with that? So it wasn't such a thing with that. It wasn't a pressure, because I felt, look, we're pretty strong where we're at as a couple. I knew there was going to be pressures on us with lack of sleep and going into that first year. 70%, this is an exact statistic, 70 to 80% of relationships go under an intense level of pressure within that first year. And the main thing behind it is the sleep. sleep is a killer. Sleep is what sectioned me without a question of that. Like sleep deprivation is big, you know. Like,
and for anyone listening, they would have heard me say it so many times I won't even bother. Anyone listening, what could you offer? Any top tips or advice that helped you get to where you are now with your partner?
with my wife?
Yeah, with your wife.
Uh,
Because a lot of people, one would have stayed in a relationship just for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm.
The stresses and strains that you have gone through, I know for a fact, because I went through it myself. And to live with someone, I would imagine that obsessive, I'm quoting from myself, obsessive over stuff, that you're not going to stop until you get there. That would have taken its toll, I imagine, on your wife.
Yeah, listen, you've got to have the right partner that understands that entrepreneurship is a different business, you know. Like, I'm up to like midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, working. Again, self-awareness is number one. Like, number two on my values is self-awareness. Number one is I remember doing values for the first time. I remember hearing about it for the first time and all this personal development stuff. And I thought, what a load of like wishy-washy, like woo-woo, like just going to do training. I was like, just show me how to earn money. I don't want to hear about this self-development stuff. Like, I didn't realise the impact that had in doing your values. Number one is time. So again, I have to be aware of it. Number two is awareness. So I have to be aware when I'm not spending enough time with her and to be humble when I'm not. So self-awareness is massively key. Communication's on my values as well. So being able to communicate is really, really key. But the biggest hack and the biggest tip I can give you, this is not just for business, it's one of the biggest hacks in my development I've ever done. It's called the 5-second rule. It's by a lady called Mel Robbins. And you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's the way you respond. So what I realise is, like, if you get annoyed with something, like, the law of reciprocity works all around us all the time. So if my wife says something that annoys me, it might not be that annoying to anybody. It's just frustrating me. I'm tired, and she's close to me. She annoys me. So what I do is, before responding, I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in my head, and I count backwards, and then I respond, because it takes it away from my chimp brain. It puts it into my thinking brain. Like, if you taking the chimp paradox as a example of that. And I'll just answer in a normal tone. So just talking in normal tones is massive. Do I get a perfect all the time? No. Sometimes like my brain hijacks me before I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But again, a little thing like this, I've got a reminder every day that comes in. That I call it a love journal. I remind myself the things I like about my wife, because you're so, like, what you get in life is what you focus on. And again, going back to the Einstein thing, the most important question you ask yourself in the world is the universe a friendly or hostile place? And if you constantly tell yourself, my wife's getting on my nerves, my wife's this, you're going to find all them. Your brain does you've got a reticular activating system thing in your brain. As I said, I geeked out on all this. It'll give you a confirmation bias, and it'll find the things that you're focused on. So every day it comes up as a little reminder every day, love journal from my wife. So sometimes I write them down, sometimes I remind myself of them. So when I'm going through them tough points, because relationships are tough. Relationships, you have to work on them. Like anything that's rewarding in life, I don't care what anybody says, you have to work on it. My bugbear with the coaching industry is 5 simple steps to financial freedom, 5 simple steps to this. It's like, no, look, if you want anything rewarding, whether it's being in good shape, having good mental health, having a good family, good money, you've got to put the fucking graft in. Like, stop trying to be seduced. Yeah.
Create that habit. Just touching on something you said there about the industry, the whole property industry as a whole, and the education industry. It annoys me as well. It does frustrate me. Have you ever received any negative feedback, comments, and how have you dealt with it?
On my education, no. Thankfully, I've had super.
Even in regards to like the content that you've put
social media, yeah. Anything that goes viral today, especially on anything that goes viral, a ton of it. I've got a video going viral at the moment, and it's funny as well. Got a video going viral. If you want to go viral, like, I've studied algorithms, social media, what works, and some people, going back to it, some people naturally are likeable online and they're going to get bigger views, and others, some people ain't. But everybody can get their level of where they're at with that. But the quickest way to go viral is be a bit polarising. But what I say to people, don't be polarising for the sake of being polarising. Don't just have an opposing view to say just to get the views, because it's unauthentic. You've got to be authentic. But I've got a video at the moment. It's a HMO I've done. It's got social housing. In there, like tenants in there, so refugees in there. So as soon as you put HMO and refugees together, like, you're just hated online for that. So, but it's blunt a video. The video's had 35,000 likes. It's had 1.9 million views on it, and it's been a really big part of like when you get viral videos, anything over 100,000 views is when you start getting momentum on big like jump ups in the growth on your followings. So, but there's loads of hate on there. But that hate is really driving the post because giving it engagement. And then I've got people, where's polarized? I've got people over this side that like, no, he's doing the right thing, and people over this side that hate it. And then they have an argument within the chat about the whole thing, and you're just there watching it, and it's just really funny. But a guy I put on there as well, a guy that shouldn't even be in the country, homing people that shouldn't be in the country, fuck off, mate. And I was like, that is quite funny, I must admit. But yeah, it helps though. If you engage with them, I engage with them in a way where I just know it's going to stoke them a little bit more, like, and just helps the algorithm really, really drive it forward. But anything that goes viral you will just get opposing views on it, but you've got to learn to take that and take that in your stride kind of thing. It's hard some days, but
again, it comes back to that fear aspect of that's what's stopping a lot of people getting started in property, because you've got to be online. You've got to be online. That's where you get your investors, where you get all the deals. Not all the deals, but I would say you get more deals.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I've had a lot of deals come through social media, and again, that's where you build that sense of network and really community. I would imagine a lot of yours is through the community you've built up now. You don't necessarily need to phone up an estate agent, but you could tap into your network online and get a deal or raise money.
Absolutely, but listen, 95% of people online today, whether that's estate agents, solicitors, brokers, so the brokers I work with will follow my content. They want to work with me because they think, oh, okay, like he can bring us lots of business. So it makes them much more, like I've got a principle I call 10-10-80. So lots of people say to me, say somebody rips you off, say you get a builder rips you off, say you get deal source to rip you off. I say, look, the reality is probably only about 10% of people out there, depending on what industry it is, slightly like moves, but about 10% of people are out to rip you off. But unfortunately, out of the rest of the 90% that's left, they've got good intentions. Like everybody's got good intentions, but everybody's got good intentions to be a good driver. But how many people do you know are bad drivers that admit they're a bad driver? So good intentions do not deliver. I know loads of builders that think they're great, but they're not great, So good intentions don't deliver on anything. Or I know people that are fantastic at what they do, but they don't turn up on a Monday morning because they've been on the piss all the weekend, or just not got self-motivation, super talented, no motivation. So good intentions don't get you there. So there's another, at them final 90%, 10% of them is probably good enough to deliver on what they need to deliver on, whether that's a solicitor, a broker, an accountant, a estate agent, anybody in your network of what you need to do business with. There's 10% all vying to build out a network within. So the reality is, as I said, people do business with people they like. I've got a solicitor. She's mature. I don't like to ask her age or guess it, but she talked about retirement. So she's obviously kicking on a little bit. Lovely lady. She follows me on Instagram of all places and talks about my son as if she knows him. If I walk in the office, she'll be like, show him a picture of your son and blah, blah. And again, if I phone up or I need something doing, she prioritises me massively. I know if I've got a deal I need to push through and she's got a plate full of stuff, she prioritised me. When I get builders, they're online. And I strategically do this. Estate agents, this is a massive little hack for anybody. Go online, go in, speak to agents, go and meet them and find who they are. Then go and find them online. And then constantly engage with them, speak to them, find out, be an investigator, find out, you've been on holiday here, I see social media, engage with them. Naturally, again, they'll look on your profile. And if they look on your profile and they can see you're credible, they're going to want to do business with you much quicker than all these people coming in with donuts and coffees going, yeah, you got any B&V deals? Like, they get people coming in all the time. Someone who's watched a YouTube video, a entrepreneur that's gone, I'm going to be a property investor. And then the next week they want to be a Bitcoin trader because they've watched a new video. And the week after they want to be, a Forex trader. And then the week after that they want to be a digital marketer. And they get that all the time. So they actually kind of think, here we go again when you walk in as a new investor. But again, if you can get them onto your social media, and even if you've never done a deal before, you can show them you're doing your due diligence on the area, show them you've done your research, show them you're educating yourself, show them you're reading books. It's absolutely ginormous for everything. It's key to speeding up your growth.
That takes too much work, though. Yeah. And what I mean is, people nowadays don't want to put the work in. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've come across that with people on your training platform.
Yeah, slightly. I pre-qualify everybody. I was so anal because I didn't want to be another one of these trainers that just like put it out there kind of thing and just take people's money for the sake of it. I didn't want to be the finger point. Saying that on social media, I did turn up one day on that. There's a Facebook group. I'd never been on there before until this day. It's called The Truth About Samuel Leeds. And it's a Facebook. I think there's about like 5,000-6,000 followers in this group. And all they do is absolutely rip trainers. So they go in there, they all just rip trainers. It's mainly aimed at Samuel Leeds, but most of the trainers in the industry, they're just in there absolutely negative towards all trainers. And then one day I got a message from somebody saying, "Oh, you turn up in this Samuel Leeds group." I was like, "Oh, really?" So I had a little look in there, and the guy in there said, "Has anybody heard this like typical furu?" This line was a typical furu. He's coming up in my feeds, on my ads, blah blah blah. Has anybody heard or know anything of this person? Funny enough, one of the admins of the group's actually in my Facebook group. And he was like, "Yeah, I know him. Like, why are you calling him that?" And his exact words was, "I don't know. I just get a feeling about him. He just seems like a barrow boy geezer type person." He said, "If he can persuade people out their money, good luck to him. But he's not persuading me." And I jumped in. I said, "Look, you're just making an impression based on my accent. You know, like you don't know anything about me. Like if you asking, I don't mind you asking a question, but making an assumption based on just face value, it's just poor. You know, you don't know anything about it." And then somebody jumped in and went, "Oh, why don't you check his company house out?" I said, "Check your company house, check my social medias. I've had a company that's failed, I've had this that's failed, and I'm super transparent about it. You know, so you don't, and looking at companies' house don't tell you much, you know, because you offset losses, blah, blah." So I said, like, but either way, that's not going to tell you much. But I answered a few questions in there. Then I had loads of people I've trained jump in there and answer. I said, "Yeah, I've done his training." And they were like, "Is he set up fake accounts? Is he like Samuel Leeds sending out his minions to do his answering for him?" And I was like, bloody hell. But yeah, going back round full circle on that. Yeah, you do. I was so anal on making sure I get the right people in my training. The first time I trained anybody, I said to them, "You've got to send me proof of funds that you're in a position to buy, and you've got to send me your Experian report to show me that you can get them all." My wife was going, "You're over." I said, "No, I only want to work with people that can do it." Like, so I have eased up on that a little bit and send me proof of funds and stuff like that, because I know some people have not got funds and we can teach them. But every person that buys my training, I take them through an interview process. So I'm like, "Look, I'm going to qualify you. I'm going to take you on and make sure you're a good fit for it." But also, to stop people pointing fingers at me, you've got it's a 6-week course. If in the first 4 weeks, if you don't like it for any reason, I don't care. There's no condition to this. You don't like it for any reason, you change your mind for any reason, I'll give you money back. Pure and simple. You're not going to point your finger at me to say you're expensive course or you're to blame. You'll know within 4 weeks whether or not it's a good fit or whether it's working for you. And if you don't like it, have your money. I want to earn money from what I do, but I want to get fulfillment from what I do as well. And I get zero fulfillment just selling somebody. So if you don't like it, have your money back. So where I take people through that process and I offer them that there, luckily I've got nothing but really, really like shining reviews. I've not even asked, I call them, I should be doing this more, asking for reviews, but I call them like these organic reviews. You know, like if your wife says to you or somebody says to you, "Does my bum look big in this?" Often, this is the best way to say it, saying that. All the time, I do this all the time. You sit there in the restaurant, you're going, "Oh, this is not that great." And the waiter's really nice. They come over, "Is everything all right, Phil?" You go, yeah, it's lovely, thank you." And you just haven't got the heart to tell them the truth, kind of thing. Loads of trainers do this. "What's my course like?" And I knew somebody that bought my course, and they said, "Oh, I've just been on this person's course. He's a lovely guy, really nice guy, but it just wasn't a fit for me what I was doing." Then about a month later, I see him doing a testimonial for him, because this guy asked everybody for a testimonial, and because they liked him, they didn't want to go, "Yeah, it wasn't that great, that course." But the amount of testimonials I've got just naturally, like people just naturally come to me and say, "Look, wow, this has done this has done that," because there's a ton of mindset and personal development in there as well. So thankfully, like I've got no really bad people that's gone through the training to moan. That's probably going to change with the e-learning, but as I said, I was reluctant to do the e-learning because I know not a lot of people was going to do it, but there's such an appetite for it, and people want it and want a lower barrier to entry. So it's like if you want it, have it that way, but I don't advise you to actually do it, right? But if you want to do it and that's what you want, then happy days, kind of take that. But I advise you to get the support, the accountability, the guidance step by step. But yeah.
What would you say is your greatest achievement so far?
My greatest achievement? Hard question. Like, obviously you say the cliche thing, your kids, your family. My greatest achievement, I think, would be my balance in it. You know, my greatest achievement is my awareness of the balance that I've got, because my kids is great. Obviously the lifestyle I live is great. The finances I built has been great. So I don't think I can name it into one thing, but I think just my why is to live on my terms. My mission is to help as many people live on their terms. And I think my greatest achievement is being able to live on my terms, saying that, because that living on my terms means I can take my boy to school. We can go traveling regular. I have financial pressures and strains when I do bigger projects and things like that, but I'm not majorly worried about money. So yeah, living on my terms is my greatest achievement.
What would you say makes you feel accomplished?
Exactly that again.
Yeah,
Living on my terms, like getting up, like doing things on. Living on my terms. Don't get this mixed up. Anybody that's listening doesn't mean you sit on a beach drinking pina coladas, smoking Havana cigars.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because I've had people on the podcast that are driving towards it and pushing that as a message. That's not always the case.
No, living on your terms. As I said, even when you get bigger and you get a team underneath you and using your words, make yourself redundant from your business, you're still responsible for it. I don't care what anybody says. If you've got a big team, you've still got to look over the KPIs. You still got to look over, even got managers, you've got to manage the managers. If you've got a CEO of your business and you're above that, you've got to manage that person. You still got to do a level of work, a level of responsibility that goes with that. But living on your terms is not sipping back. I still have to put the legwork in, but yeah, by far, it all leads into that.
And what's the goal for the next 5 years?
The goal for the next 5 years is to evolve into like more of a digital presence, online, digital, build a digital business app, support people more on the digital side of it. I'd always buy properties. I love them, but I want to build more digital assets that can give me a passive income through digital space.
Brilliant, mate. And I always finish on this question. Harvey, how are you doing?
Am I doing? I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, mate. Harvey's brilliant. Thanks very much for coming in, and that's pretty much the end of it, mate.
Good man.